Before we get going with this episode of the Ski Instructor podcast, I just wanted to let you know that this episode is brought to you in association with Castley. Alex at Castley has just hooked me up with the FX85 ski, which is going to be my powder ski for this winter. I'm really looking forward to that. It's a sort of old school wood core, no flashy technology, lightweight, ski. For skiing off piste. I know 85 is not massively wide underfoot, but that's kind of my preference for an off piste ski. I don't want anything too fat, and it looks like this one's going to be ideal for winter. So if you're considering new skis, give yourself a quick look around their website at castley.com. Welcome to episode 23 of the Ski Instructor podcast. My name's Dave Burrows and I'm the director and owner of SnowPros Ski School based here in Val d'Illier in Switzerland. Continuing my summer theme of trying to get away a little bit more from the British ski instructors and the British Association of Ski Instructors. This week I've got an interview with Josh Foster, who's from Canada. Josh lives in Big White. He's a trainer for the CSIA, and also represents Canada on the Canadian demo team. Josh runs a snowsports business called Snowsports Unlimited, and formerly has been the ski school boss at Big White. In this interview, which I absolutely loved, it was a fantastic interview. But we've and you'll see from the interaction between us how much I enjoyed speaking to Josh. But in this first half, we talk a little bit about his journey and how he ended up in Big White. We cover a couple of tangents to do with ice hockey and firefighting. We talk about his skiing background and various resorts that he skied in and worked in Canada, as well as Vail in the US. And then we finish off the first half with some chat about the Ski Tips TV, which Josh was doing, and that's how I initially came across him when I was thinking of moving to Canada at some point. So enjoy this first half. It's a wide-ranging and long chat, and I really think you'll get a lot out of it. So I'll see you in the middle. Welcome to the Ski Instructor podcast, Josh Foster. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. Thanks for having me on, Dave.
Oh, that's all right.
It's kind of a wintry day here today. Actually, it's only about 3 degrees Celsius, so it's
you're joking.
Not your kind of late June weather, but I guess you get what you get.
When does the season, what does it look like over there? I'm largely ignorant of anything to do with Canada, except for my mother-in-law who lives in Montreal. And she says the summer lasts about, a couple of months and then it's back to winter again. But I'm sure it's not as dramatic as that.
It depends on where you are, I guess. Like if the further north you are, obviously the colder it is. But, Vancouver rarely gets a lot of snow, for example, in the winter time, whereas places like Ottawa, Montreal, Toronto get a fair bit of snow.
Okay.
Calgary, Edmonton, they can be really cold, like in terms of major cities around the country. Halifax will get a little bit of snow, but there's some pretty warm places. Like where I am, though, I live on the mountain at Big White, right? So we're at about it's a little over 5,000 feet.
Oh, right.
So,
okay.
So because we're at that altitude, we tend to get a bit of a colder summer. But honestly, I'm okay with that.
I was just about to say the same thing. Like I live about, do we live out here? 1,100 meters. So what would that be? Almost 3,000, 3,500 feet, maybe a bit more.
Yeah.
And it's the same. Like whenever I go down to the plain, it's so hot. I just can't wait to get back up here. You know?
Yeah. Well, like where we are, just above Kelowna. Kelowna is a semi-arid desert.
Right.
So, and a beautiful lake down there in town, and then it's really quite nice. But it can be anywhere from 10 to 15 degrees hotter than it is up here on the mountain. So in the summer, you can go down into Kelowna and it's mid 30s, and then you come up here and it's mid 20s.
Oh wow!
So it's it's not a bad place to be, especially when you do get into those super hot days in the summertime.
Yeah, it makes all the difference, doesn't it? Because I mean, we so I went down. Where was I yesterday? I've been on a bit of a wild goose chase across Switzerland in the last 2 days. So we ended up in a place called Curzes, which is on one of the lakes, but it was 28 degrees yesterday down there, and I haven't really experienced that yet this summer because it's only just sort of starting to get warm here. And I tell you what, you miss that extra sort of 10 degrees you lose by living at altitude. The evenings are cool and you can kind of sleep properly. If I was living down on the plain, there's no way I'd be. It's too hot for me. It's too hot. I'm just not tolerant to it anymore. I'm really not.
Yeah. I'm the type of guy. Like, I guess given what I do for the most part, I'd rather be a little cold than a little hot.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you. Yeah. So I wanted to get in touch with you because you won't remember this, but a long time, or maybe you do, maybe you don't, but you won't. I doubt it. When I was first changing my life around and going into the ski industry, one of the options I had was looking at some sort of certification course in Big White. And I was sort of frantically searching around the internet for anything to do with Big White to find out what it was all about. And I came across your series of ski tips and stuff on YouTube, I guess it must have been. And I think you must have been heading up the ski school at that time or something like that. And I wrote to you. So I wrote to you and I said, hey man, can you give me a bit of info on like what this place is? What's it all about? And you very, very kindly responded and gave me sort of info that helped me to make up my mind. So I really appreciate you taking the time to write that time. I didn't end up in Big White, but I ended up here in the Swiss Alps instead.
Yeah. I was fortunate enough to work at Big White for several years, and one of the things that we did start when I was heading up the ski school was a lot of those instructor training programs, and we worked with some great companies, and those companies are still working with Big White, and we helped design and craft some of those instructor training programs, or I guess GAP programs as they're called out of the UK. It's a fun experience, and some of those companies moved on, but a couple of them are still here, and they're doing really, really well. It's a great program. It's a good way for people to start into teaching skiing and snowboarding, and if you're passionate about it, then it generally works out. It's kind of the sky's the limit type of idea for sure.
And you're saying that you still live there, so are you based there all the time, or do you move around different resorts in your area?
Well, I live, like, I have a house right on the mountain at Big White. It's pretty nice. It's ski in, ski out. So for a case of beer, the snowcat drivers will groom right up to my back door.
Oh, that's great.
And I can put on the skis in my backyard and slide down to the chairlift, and then just slide in from across the road, step across the road, and there you are in my yard again. So
that sounds amazing.
It's pretty convenient for what I love to do. There's that ski in, ski out access. It's pretty darn nice. Like you can't beat that. That's for sure.
Yeah. So it sounds to me ideal. So I don't quite have that access at my house. I have to drive pretty much everywhere from where I go. But Yeah, I have a sort of, a big longing for like a cabin in the woods just to get away or something like that. It's become quite important to me in the last few years or so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's good. We're not quite a cabin in the woods. There's a bit of a community up here.
Okay.
I'm actually I've transitioned into a few things, and I guess we'll talk about those a little bit later. But
Yeah.
but I work in the fire department actually up here. I'm the deputy chief operations and training, and that was one of the reasons to transition out of Big White in terms of the ski resort, but then to give myself some time to do some other things. But yeah, the community up here, it's in the summertime, there's only a few hundred people that live up here in the summertime, but in the wintertime, there can be upwards of 15,000 people.
Oh, really?
Up here on the mountain. So there's everything from standalone ski chalets to condos to you name it. Multi-million-dollar luxury homes now are being built and that sort of thing. So it's a growing community, absolutely. But it is nice. It's pretty secluded. You get some incredible sunsets, and then I guess being at the altitude that we're at, which which matters most to me is really, really good snow and consistent snow. So not quite the cabin in the woods, but but as close as you can get, and still have those luxuries of modern life and amenities and that kind of thing. Yeah, absolutely.
While we're on that topic, then, tell me more about the fire department thing. So the way that they do it up here in the mountains is that the fire guys, the pompiers, sapeur-pompier, is voluntary. So it's made up of a bunch of guys, and they get a buzzer and it goes. And my neighbour, in fact, I think he's like one of the I don't know, deputy bosses or something of our fire department around here. And I meant to mention to him the other day because I'm quite interested in it, but I'm not sure that my French is going to be up to it in a sort of faced with fire kind of situation. My French is pretty good, but I don't know whether it would be useful to them to have like an English speaker, around in the event that a native English speaker in the event that I don't know, you've got a situation involving a tourist or something like that. I wonder if that might be useful. I've been meaning to mention it to him, but is it the same setup where you are?
Yes and no. I guess like we're most sort of Canadian fire departments, anyways, in British Columbia, they're what's known as paid on call.
Okay.
So there's actually more paid on call and volunteer firefighters in North America than there is full-time career firefighters.
Okay.
And you see full-time career firefighters in big cities, right? Like Vancouver, Toronto, all of that sort of stuff. Like that's what makes up those big fire halls in downtown cores and stuff. But in the rural areas, it's mostly paid on call and volunteer. So paid on call, basically what that means is that they'll get an hourly rate of pay when they respond to a call, or when we train and practice. We practice once a week on Tuesday nights, and then we have some ongoing training on weekends and that sort of thing. At Big White, there's just under 38 firefighters.
Oh, wow.
That work in the department, and there's 3 of us that are what you would call a career firefighter. So we're full time. Yeah. So there's the chief, and then myself as deputy chief training and operations, and that's one of the reasons why my training experience is why I ended up there. And then there's a deputy chief of what we call fire prevention and life safety. So he does all of the building inspections and things like that, like you would see in a regular city. Yeah. Then of that crew, we have what's known as a work experience program, where we've got 7 graduates from fire colleges. Yeah. And they're just here for ongoing training and experience, and they do an 11-month commitment to the fire hall and the community. And one of my key responsibilities is training them. Wow. So they just started on June 1st. So we do essentially with like a 4-month, what you would call like a boot camp, where we're very intensive for the first 4 months of training. We train 5 days a week with them. Yeah. Everything from like just on Monday, for example, we did traffic control, right? So how to direct traffic at an incident scene, simple stuff like that. But yeah, if you don't train it properly and you don't get the hands-on experience, then it becomes a dangerous situation. So there's some little tricks that and some skills that they need to learn, and then we do everything from that type of training all the way up to the upper end of the scale, which we call live fire training. So we have a training facility here on the mountain it's built out of shipping containers, actually, and it's built to look like a little modular apartment building, and so we can start fires inside that building in little fire bins, and we've built rooms inside it, so the crew can train fire attack in that controlled environment where we can manage it, but then also train their skills to get them ready for a career fire department job elsewhere. And this is the 19th iteration of this program here on the mountain. So it's actually become one of the most reputable programs in Canada for training firefighters. So the guys, they come up here and live. This group, we've got 7 or 6 men and 1 woman that are participating in that training. So it's a really active department. Yesterday, for example, we did a community cleanup as well, which is led by the fire department. So all of our crew were out, and we get the locals that are here on the mountain to help out, and we just kind of, after the snow's melted, we drive around the community and walk around the community and pick up any kind of litter and stuff that's been around. So we tidy the place up, and it's just that.
It's amazing. I've done a few of those here, and it's amazing the stuff you find. Absolutely amazing. The things that people leave behind. Mainly it's ski poles and cigarette butts, I guess, but we found a couple of iPhones yesterday. So they're a little worse for wear, but you name it. Yeah, there's any kind of range of odd things. Yeah, there's a little bit of everything. How did you? I know this is a skiing podcast, but how did you get into the whole fire department thing?
Well, it was actually one of the reasons why I chose Big White in the first place. To move, I moved here from Banff, and when I was a kid, I guess I don't know, I wouldn't say like every kid, but a lot of kids, I grew up in a little town outside of Toronto, and in the summers kids would go to summer camp, but I always went to junior firefighter camp.
Oh, well, there's a camp. That's good.
So you go and hang out at the fire hall, and
so
you were a little bit broken up there.
Sorry, I was going to say that's really cool. I didn't even know that was a thing, like a junior firefighter camp.
Yeah. Huh? Yeah. So the Whitby Fire Department, they had a little kids camp, and it was just a day camp, and my mom would drop me off, and we got to hang out at the fire hall, and then they, you do some stuff with the hoses, and then we even got to use some of the what they call auto extrication tools, which are like, I guess the common term, people call them the jaws of life and stuff that, where you got to cut up some cars, obviously with a firefighter helping you, because you're just a little kid. Those things
are
pretty heavy. But so I'd always wanted to do that, and when I lived in Banff, tried to volunteer there, but it was pretty long wait list and stuff, and then it's kind of a combination of things. There was an opportunity to move to Big White, and looking around if it was going to be a good fit for me, I saw that there was the fire department, and once I moved here, I spent the winter getting settled and getting my feet underneath me, and then May of my first year here, I joined the fire department. So I'm actually now the longest standing member on the fire department. I'm 15 years as a firefighter as well.
Wow, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Yeah. Well, that segues nicely into the bit where I always ask guests about themselves a little bit. So I'm guessing as a Canadian, you're born with skis or skates on your feet, one of the two, or maybe both. And what was your journey to ending up choosing skiing as a career as well, alongside the firefighting stuff?
I was a hockey player, and played a ton of hockey as a kid, up to a pretty high level as well. and that occupied a significant amount of my time. I actually, started skiing a little bit and then had to stop skiing for a couple years, just because of the agreement that we had with the hockey team that you've got to ensure that you're not doing anything else that you potentially hurt yourself because you need to play.
That must have been quite a decent level of hockey you were playing then, because there's not, I guess they don't enforce that at a lower level. They do that with footballers and stuff.
Yeah, I played a little bit of what they call junior hockey here, and players from the league that I played in, I played around at some fairly high levels, but not at a sustained kind of level there. I played a few games in what they call junior A. Out here, mostly junior B is what I played though.
Okay.
But yeah, at the league the highest level that I did play at, and I only, like I said, it was a very short stint there. But players out of that league got drafted to play professional hockey.
Oh wow!
Up into the NHL and that kind of thing. And I know quite a few of my friends played pro hockey and that sort of thing. At my age, I don't have any friends now that are still playing, but they're all they're coaches and scouts and stuff like that for the pros. But
it's funny. I've just finished reading a book called The Code, which is, I think it's about this sort of unwritten code in hockey about how the game sort of polices itself, or did up to a certain point. I think the game's changed now. Apparently, it will change with something called the instigator penalty, which I don't really understand that too much. But yeah, it was about this sort of code of honor and doing things the right way so that the game can be played. Otherwise, it just descends into into a bit of a mess. And it was a super interesting read to see what goes behind all of those kind of scraps and stuff that you see on the TV. It's there's more to it than meets the eye for sure.
Yeah, I think a lot of people that don't understand the game and behind the game, the reasons behind the game, it just looks like violence, really, in a lot of instances. But yeah, there's reasons for, and then there's different schools of thought for whether fighting belongs in the game and that kind of thing, and that's probably a whole other podcast that somebody else is doing. But,
probably. But it's true. I mean, the violence and the fighting. Essentially, this book was saying, if anyone wants to read it, it's called The Code. I can't remember who it's by, but it sort of says that the fighting is necessary to allow the skillful players to play the game. In essence, because it gives them space to play.
Yeah.
And apparently, you guys will learn this as you grow up playing junior hockey. It's a learned thing. It's just sort of. Here's, it's passed down. Here's the way that you do things. This is the tradition of it.
Yeah, well, exactly. And that's why, they used to have, as you probably read in that book, there's the skilled players and then there's the enforcers out there on the ice. And, arguably the world's greatest hockey player in Wayne Gretzky was always surrounded by guys like Marty McSorley and Al Secord and guys like that make space for him out on the ice. And other teams don't take liberties at players like that, because they know that if they do take a shot at Wayne Gretzky, they've got to deal with Marty McSorley. And that's why he was able to do what he was able to do. And I guarantee you, anybody that interviews Wayne Gretzky, the first people he thanks for his career are those players, right? The guys that made the space. In fact, one of the biggest trades in hockey history was Wayne Gretzky going from Edmonton to Los Angeles, and Marty McSorley went with him. Yeah, right. His enforcer was part of the trade. Yeah. You got your guys, the guys that you're comfortable with, and it's just the way that the game is played. And to the uninitiated, it's maybe not the easiest to understand, but the game's changed for sure. It's a way faster game than it ever used to be. And that the players they've gone through this cycle of being sort of average size to huge to now they're back to they're still all pretty big guys like that in that 6 foot kind of 200-pound sort of range, anywhere from sort of 180 to 220 pounds. So they're big guys out there, but they're, the speed and the skillfulness it's really changed. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. What were you? You can tell me you were an enforcer.
I was a forward. Yeah, I was a what they sort of call a grinder.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't any of the goals that I scored, they weren't pretty goals. I would be in front of the net picking up the garbage, as they say.
Yeah. Someone's got to
digging
do.
digging the puck out of the corner to get it out to the skilled guys. Those battles along the boards and stuff.
Yeah.
I was a pretty good skater. I was pretty fast, but there's a the skillful players in playing hockey, the term that they often use with them is they have soft hands, meaning they're skilled with the puck. And then there's a joke among hockey players is that you got cement hands, right? And I was a little bit more on the cement hand side.
Yeah.
It's not the soft hand. So I was a pretty good skater, but not overly skilled with the puck. But I was a bit more of a role player where you just kind of got the puck out to the guys that put it in the net.
Good play. Yeah. I think there is that in every sports team, isn't there? In football or soccer, as you guys probably call it. There's a sort of water carrier in the midfield. There's a guy who sort of just sort of goes around and picks up all the loose ends and does all the dirty work, so he can give it to the good guys who can actually play with it. And
that's it. Yeah. That's it. But it takes all those positions, right? Everybody plays a role to contribute to the team, and that's one of the things. Like most of my guys at the fire hall, especially these guys that I was telling you about, that's something that we talk about. We talk about teamwork, and everybody has a role to play, and not everybody's going to be the chief, right? But
that's true.
But you've got a role to support that, and that's the way I think any good team works, right? So.
Yeah, I know for sure. So where did that? So once you presumably then once you were done with hockey, you then turned your attention to skiing.
Yeah, it was kind of strange how that came about. I was working. It was in the summer, and I was working doing some tile work. Like I was doing marble and granite. I was working with a contractor. It was basically just a summer job, and I taught skiing a little bit part time on the weekends and a couple of evenings at a little place close to my house where I grew up, and I really enjoyed it. And the contractor that I was working for, they had some financial struggles and stuff, so that the company didn't work out. So I was kind of October with no job or anything to do, and the Canadian Ski Instructors Alliance at the time, they published, and they still publish, an edition of what's called SnowPro.
Okay.
But in those days, it was a magazine, and every year, annually, there was an insert in the magazine that just had a listing of all of the ski resorts in Canada and the contact information for the directors and what staff they were looking for and stuff like that. And I came home from work one day, where the company sort of folded up shop, and wondered what to do. And my mom said, "Well, why don't you go teaching skiing? This came for you." And so I opened it up, and right in the center of it, like with a staple, because it was basically just a photocopied kind of thing.
Yeah,
it was Sunshine Village, and a friend of mine had skied there before and said it was awesome. And I'd never skied in the West at all. I grew up in a small community just outside of Toronto, in Ontario, and I just, the biggest place that I'd been to at that point was Mont Tremblant and Mont Saint Anne and stuff, which are really big and great resorts, but nothing like the resorts that you have in the West, right?
Yeah.
I opened it up and phoned the ski school, and they said, "Can you send your resume?" And that was back in the days where you either had to mail it, or I gave it to my dad, and he took it to his office and he faxed it the next day. And then I had a phone interview and got hired over the phone. So fast forward a couple of weeks, I'm at Sunshine Village. It's dumping snow, and I'd never skied powder before or anything like that. And it was on my first day. I had a big spill, and I spent 45 minutes looking for one of my skis.
We've all been there, but it's terrible, isn't it? Especially when you're out with the boss.
But when you're in a uniform too, and it's in your first day, and you're your ski school uniform. But
Oh,
but yeah, it was fun, and I met some great friends there that I'm still friends with. A couple of the guys I talk to a couple times a week, and this is back in the late '80s, early '90s that I met these guys, and we're still all really good friends, and still ski together and that sort of thing. So I guess that year I just kind of fell in love with it, and I made a deal with my parents that I'd give them a call every Sunday night. And one Sunday night, my mom says, "You sound different," and I said, "Yeah, I think I found what I really want to do."
That's cool.
And then that was it. They just said, a lot of my friends at the time, their parents were pushing them for like, when are you going to get a real job?
Yeah.
Kind of, that old shtick. And my parents, I was really fortunate. There's this long pause on the phone when my mom goes, "Are you sure?" And then I said, "Yeah, I'm sure." And then my dad just said, "So, okay, well, be the best you can be at it." And then that was it. And that was the last and only, I guess, conversation that we had about, is this what you want to do? And so I guess that was a real motivator for me, that if they're gonna ask me to just be the best I can be at it, then I never want to let them down. So that's why I kind of pursued the sport as I have.
For sure. There's two things that come out of that. One, there is a whole generation of kids, young people. I get CVs every week. I imagine you probably did when you were the boss at the ski school as well. It's very easy to email everybody, but back in the day, I remember applying for jobs when I used to be working in London, and you'd have to look through the back of the paper, hope that you saw something that sort of matched or was what you wanted to do. Literally, type out or write out something and then post it and wait. Like, it wasn't instant. It was a whole different world. And I do remember when I first came here. So this guy Rolf gave me my first job in the ski school in Morjan, and I think he just wanted to go skiing. But we went to Verbier early season, and the first thing he wanted to do was go off piste. Very first, is typical kind of Rolf, and he won't mind me saying that. First thing he wanted to do was go off piste, and I we just sort of off the back of this thing somewhere in Morjan. I'm a fairly fresh behind the ears kind of new instructor, and I got hit with like a little case of vertigo on a certain little bit, and I couldn't move. It was properly frozen, and I was sort of I couldn't move. My legs wouldn't move, wouldn't do anything. And then there's my new boss sort of sitting down at the bottom of the mountain, sort of waiting. So, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? And I'm just sort of can't move. And I sort of saw my dream sort of evaporating before my eyes at that point, and that was a real embarrassing one, but luckily he looked past it, so that was good. That was good. Yeah. So where did your journey take you after that? So the best that you could be ended up being going through the CSIA system, I guess. And I did at least a course or two every year, and I worked at Sunshine Village in the winter time, and then one summer, a friend that I met there at Sunshine, she was a cook at a tree planting outfit that worked in Thunder Bay, and so out of Thunder Bay in Northern Ontario. So in looking that first year for a summer job, I ended up going tree planting for a good portion of the summer, which, rewarding work, but really hard work, and not overly fun work, that's for sure. And then did that, and then went back home to Whitby, and ended up driving an ice truck for the rest of the summer, and delivering ice, which the most irritating thing about delivering ice is people in your sweating buckets, right? Like just unloading all this ice, and people are going, "Oh, that looks like a nice, cool job." Yeah, I could imagine.
And you're going, "It's not, man. It sucks." Like it was hard work, but it occupied the rest of the summer until I could go skiing again, and then ended up back at Sunshine again, and then had a really good winter, and then met another guy that was working at a place as a medic at a rafting resort on the Ottawa River,
Wow.
just north of Ottawa. So I ended up heading there and becoming a whitewater rafting guide.
Okay.
It worked out great. I ended up rafting in the summertime and skiing in the winter, and then after a few seasons with the rafting company, it's kind of a bit of a long story, but I'll try to make it short. They ended up the daughter of a guy that helped develop a lot of the skiing in Eastern Canada. His name is John Clifford.
Okay.
There's a run at Tremblant, for example, called Clifford, and it's named after him. And he helped develop a lot of the smaller areas in and around what they call the Outaouais region, which is kind of the Ottawa Valley. And he owned a small place called Mount Pakenham, just in Pakenham, Ontario. A little quaint community, just kind of northwest of Ottawa. And his daughter was part owner of Wilderness Tours, the rafting company. One of his daughters, his other daughter, Betsy Clifford, she raced for the national team in that Nancy Green kind of era.
Okay.
So pretty storied family in terms of skiing, especially in the East. And so Joanne, the daughter that owned the rafting company, they ended up buying Mount Pakenham, this little tiny ski area, like literally tiny. We used to joke it was just 3,600 inches of fire burning hell, right? Where it wasn't all that big.
Yeah.
But what it lacked in altitude, I always used to say that it made up for in attitude. A lot of wonderful people that lived in that area that came out that really supported snow sports, and because I was working as a supervisor at the rafting company, I had worked my way up. They knew what my experience was skiing. I was a level 3 at the time, level 2 coach, and doing level 1 courses and all of that sort of stuff. And they asked me if I would help out. In their first couple of years, they bought this resort, and worked as the assistant director in the ski school in that first year, and we helped grow and develop what they called the Skiing in Schools program. We were one of the first places to come up with this, which a lot of resorts still use to this day in Ontario, called station teaching.
Okay.
Because you got 100 kids, but you got 6 instructors, right?
Yeah.
So you got to figure out how are you going to move these kids around. So we ended up creating these little stations where they would learn to walk on their skis here, then they would do a straight run over here. And one instructor could keep a bunch of kids cycling, so that you could have a ridiculous amount of kids. You could have a 20-to-1 scenario, but as long as you kept them occupied. It was safe, and they were progressing, and then as soon as they were ready for the next level, then they'd bump up, and then that instructor that started them at walking would then move to the next station or the last station in line, which might be linking turns, right? And so they'd go to there. But anyways, I ended up giving them a 2-year commitment, and I worked as the assistant director and as their trainer, and for the first year, and then the second year I ended up being the ski school director.
Okay.
There. And continued to grow and develop those programs. And I passed the level 4 that year at Tremblant, and due to the help of a lot of people in that ski area and that community, where we were able to, I pretty much had carte blanche, right? Where I was able to, because I needed to train my teaching. So, for example, I created a level 1 instructor training program where I had every weekend I had this group for 10 weeks, and then on their 11th week they did their level 1. So I trained them for 10 weeks. So it was kind of a mutually beneficial arrangement. I trained them to the level 1 standard, but then I got to work on my instructor training and pedagogy, they called it at the time, for the level 4. And then good buddy had a place at Tremblant, and we went skiing on our days off at Tremblant and managed to be successful. And then that was the kind of the first foray into ski school management. It was good, and they're lovely people. Still in touch with tons of those people. They've been able to grow the place like leaps and bounds beyond whatever we developed when I first started there. They've really become an outstanding small resort outside of Ottawa that caters to families and has some great experiences and things like that. So good. Yeah. Then from there, I when I moved east, my dad he said, well, because he used to come skiing in the West with me when I was at Sunshine, he'd come out every year, and he says, well, since you're back in the East here, we should do a Western ski trip every year. So that first year that I was at Pakenham, we ended up going out to Whistler, and I'd never skied at Whistler before, and we had a good sort of father-son trip to Whistler. And then that second year I was in the East, we ended up in Colorado.
Okay.
So I went. We skied out of Copper Mountain, but we went to A Basin, and then we went to Vail, of course, and Keystone and places like that, right? So had a really good time in sort of Summit County there, and then ended up. My dad said, "Why don't you bring your resume with you and just to see, right?" Okay, so I brought my resume there and ended up deciding to drop it off at Vail. And as I was going, I asked a guy that was coming out of the Vail Ski School office. I asked him, where could I drop my resume off?
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, you can drop it off with me. I'm the ski school director."
What are the chances of that?
So I'm like, okay, and it was pretty lucky to be able to run into his Dave at the time, and Dave, he says, "Well, what are you doing?" And I said, I'm going out for a ski. Like, do you want to go for a ski? And I'm like, sure. With my dad though, and my dad kind of an intermediate skier, and I said, I'm with my dad, and he says, "Oh yeah, that's no problem. We don't need to rush or anything like that, right?" And I'm like, okay, so we went out and ended up going for a slide with Chad up the Eagle Bond gondola, and then from the Eagle Bond down to the Avanti chair. And when we got on the chair, he says, "When can you start?"
It didn't take long.
Okay. Yeah, so it was just fortuitous timing, right? Is what it was. It was.
A lot of life is like that, though, isn't it? Like it's a question of timing. A lot of things just happen like that. Quite interesting things I've noticed happen because of good timing. Right place, right time. There's a reason that phrase exists, I think.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Yeah, it was. It was just kind of a fluke. So I ended up. That was the year. Sort of when the H-2B visas were pretty easy to come by, and it was they got me a work visa, and then next thing you know, I'm working in Colorado at Vail.
What are the presumably, because the Rockies go all the way up, so that's West Coast US skiing. Is it dramatically different once you cross the border into the West Coast or the Western Canadian resorts, or is it sort of similar in terms of the scale and the way the skiing is?
Well, some places, like there's obviously skiing culturally is skiing culturally, right? Like there's some similarities, and it's kind of strange, like I remember one of the things when I first went to, just maybe this a bit of an aside, but when we're first Interski I went to was Korea in 2007 in Yeongpyeong, and I I remember the coach who got on the chair. I'm sitting next to John Gillies, who was the coach of that team, and everybody's quiet, and we're all just kind of looking around. And John was the first person to speak, and he says, "Well, there's something strangely similar about this, but it's at the same time very different." And then we all just kind of nodded in agreement, and then it just went quiet again.
Yeah,
And it was that kind of thing, and I think that's the way that it is. There's definitely some similarities. For sure. The U.S. resorts, especially in Colorado, they're a lot more developed than what you would see at a lot of the Canadian resorts. But that said, there's just the ability to do that. I think the mountains, the mountains, especially in Colorado, are big, right? Like you got, you're surrounded by peaks that are in that 11,000 to 12,000 foot range, right? And there's a few 14,000 foot peaks around and that kind of thing. So the altitude is really high, and the snow is good. It's it's interesting. And then from when you're teaching, like when you're a ski instructor, for sure, the working in the U.S. Was a pretty good opportunity, from what I was used to and that kind of thing. Like culturally, it's a little bit different, how their customers interact. Like the U.S., for example, it's a culture where they believe in tipping and things like that. Not that they don't in Canada, but they don't as much.
Yeah.
So you got paid an hourly rate that was really, really good as well. So it was nice. Like after a couple of years of being the ski school director, where everything's on you a little bit, right? Where you're or assistant director and director, where you're the go-to. There was, especially at my age at the time, it was nice to just kind of go back to being somewhat anonymous.
Oh yeah,
and you could, you're one of 1,400.
Yeah.
In that crowd, right? And it was the biggest place I'd ever been to.
Yeah, there are days. There are certainly days where I would give anything to go back to that. Only some days, not all, but just to be kind of just to be your only focus was just right. I'm just going to deliver. I've got to be here at this time and deliver a decent, a kick-ass session, and that's my only responsibility. That would be lovely, but those days are long gone, I think. They're not going to come back anytime soon. That's interesting. So we know then that the pay is reasonable in Vail and they tip well. This is top tips for people who are looking to move around.
Well, absolutely. Like I couldn't believe it. Like it was. I only ended up being in Colorado for 1 year. The girl that I was with at the time, she couldn't get a work permit. She's Canadian, of course, so couldn't get a work permit to go back. And so then I'd have gone back, but it was weird then too how the timing worked out that they did away with the H-2B visa, and I was just a couple of years prior to when everything kind of fell apart and you couldn't go to the U.S. Where it was really, really difficult. So it was once again, I guess, fortuitous timing. And then I ended up as the assistant director at Lake Louise.
Okay.
That job was posted in the same kind of format. It was posted in the SnowPro or Ski Pro magazine, and ended up accepting the job as the assistant director at Lake Louise.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so kind of went back to Banff, lived in Banff, worked out at Lake Louise, and did 7 years as the assistant director there, and then back to Sunshine just for 1 year as a trainer. Yeah, and then from Sunshine here to Big White, and then did 14 years as the ski school director at Big White.
This is a lot of big numbers you're throwing around. You don't like your profile picture on your thing here doesn't look that old.
I guess it's mountain living. Lots of people say that to me. They go like when I tell them how old I am, people like they're sort of what? They
Yeah.
don't really. Yeah, I guess I'm lucky. Like living on the mountains has sort of kept me looking a bit young. But I turned 50 this year. So.
Oh wow, fair play to you.
Yeah.
It's like dog years. Don't worry about it. Like skiing years don't count as much.
That's true. Yeah, that's totally true. Yeah.
The only thing I know about Lake Louise is that we see it every year on the World Cup, and all the guys are like covered in tape because it's so flipping cold there. That
oh my gosh, yeah, it can be ridiculously cold. Like it can be absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
I days where it's minus 40 is kind of a regular occurrence, and it's stunningly beautiful though, Lake Louise. I think like in terms of views in the world for ski resorts, because you're in the national park, you don't have like you have in some areas in BC where there's logging going on and stuff like that. So you have this view out to over some logging work, whereas in Lake Louise you've just got this beautiful carpet of trees, the spectacular vista of Mount Victoria and Temple, and then the lake itself with the chateau on it. There's not many places. Like I've been fortunate. I've skied at a ton of places. Like Zermatt's got a pretty incredible view.
Yeah.
But yeah, the view at Lake Louise is mind blowing. It's an amazing place, and it's a fun mountain. It's a super challenging mountain in spots, and I guess though, like any mountain, if it gets good snow, it's gonna be great. And it's an incredible place to be. Yeah,
you can always tell when we meet on various exams and stuff that I've been on over the years. You can always tell the guys who ski in cold places, especially the guys who ski regularly in places like Zermatt or Saas-Fee, places with sort of fairly serious altitude, because they've all got like really good thick gear, like jackets and pants and gloves and stuff. And around here where I ski, it's quite a temperate climate. It exists really as a snowy destination because of the proximity of Mont Blanc and Lake Geneva. So it's sort of stuck bang in the middle, and it's got its own sort of microclimate, which allows skiing to happen really in places that it wouldn't normally, maybe. And so often we're just skiing around in like shell jackets, quite light gloves, quite early on in the season. But you meet the guys from Saas-Fee, and they're just like, it's minus like 20 there regularly. They don't see the sun sometimes. It's quite serious. You can see the guys who are used to that kind of really cold stuff. But how do you, if you go back to your time at Lake Louise, like how do you deal with clients in that kind of cold? Like, presumably you have a lesson, right? You've got to deliver it. But if it's minus 40 outside, you can't stay out for that long in that, surely.
No, like we would, you lots of breaks and stuff like that. You just keep them moving, and you use the chairlift time to talk about whatever it is that you want to help the client with, and then on snow time, there's not a lot of standing, right? And you just kind of keep it moving as best you possibly can.
That's crazy.
You wouldn't get that for weeks on end. You'd get that for a stretch, like where you might have a week of that kind of weather, and then but the average temperature there, it's kind of in the minus 15 to minus 20 kind of range, whereas here at Big White it's minus 5 to minus 8 is the average temperature. So when I moved here from Lake Louise, I was overdressed. I had all my down stuff and everything like that, and you go out there, you look like the Michelin Man there on certain days when you're working in the Rockies. For sure, the Rockies can be really cold, where you put on every piece of ski clothing that you have to go out there and brave it for a while. But I guess you just got to roll with what the situation is, right? So if it's that cold, you just monitor the client and keep checking in on them, looking for frostbite, and can you still feel your toes, that kind of thing. And then you just slide in for a hot chocolate or a coffee, and then warm up, and then out you go again.
Where do you? Presumably, everyone has heated boots there.
Well, this is when I was there. It was kind of preheated. Well, like you could get some of the first incarnations of heated boots and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I've still, like, 30 years of teaching skiing. I've still never had boot heaters.
I don't. I think it's a thing you get though. I've heard this from people. I don't get cold toes at all, really. Like, exceptionally, maybe a bit of powder skiing and a race boot, right? But it doesn't bother me that much. But I think someone said if you get cold toes, once that starts to happen, that's it. You're done.
Yeah.
Like, that never goes away.
Yeah. I've heard that too. I know lots of people now that are using those heated socks, which are
All right.
that seems to be a real popular thing amongst my peers these days. It's not so much the heated boot, but the heated sock, right? Which
Logically, it makes more sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm kind of interested in it, but at the same time, like, I don't really suffer from that all that much. So
Yeah.
so I'm pretty lucky that way, I guess.
All right. So you ended up in Big White. And the thing I associate most with Big White is the Ski TV tip series, because that's kind of how I came across you in the first place.
Yeah.
Was that just was that like a marketing thing for Big White, or was that just you happened to be there and you were the face of that ski tips thing?
No, it was a tryout.
Right.
It was a tryout for that job. Rob Butler, who's was a long time kind of idol of mine, that's for sure. Like when I was first starting, like, for example, back in those days at Sunshine Village, when we were doing video training, we'd always joke and stop in front of the camera and do our best Rob Butler imitation, right? And he's the master, right? He's the sort of the inventor of, I think, the video ski tip, right? Like, he's the first one that I ever saw, and he created a format that was kind of like this winning format, right? And that show, it started out, it was not on the air now, but in its last few years, it was one of the longest running television shows, continuously running television shows in Canada.
Oh, really?
And it started out as Ski Base. It was, and Chris Robinson and Lynn Worrell hosted it, and so Ski Base, the ski travel magazine show, really is what it was. Mm-hmm. And then they threw in, like, there was a Pod's Perspective, which Steve Podborski did. And then then they did with Meredith Gardner. She did some freestyle reports and stuff, and they had these iconic people, like, in the Canadian ski industry on the show. And Rob Butler was probably the biggest icon for ski instructors, anyways, where he would do these tips, and just the formula of the thing to do like a 2-3 minute ski tip. And he did stuff where he'd ski down. You should look him up. It's amazing stuff where he skied down playing his guitar one time, and he was singing and playing his guitar doing a ski tip, and then he actually makes a ski turn with just his bare foot on his ski to show how your ankle works in a ski turn.
No way.
Yeah, amazing stuff. And he used to do them at Sunshine Village.
Okay.
So he would come out to Sunshine every year, and that's why we would all do these imitations, right? And I ended up one year, because he wanted to get a pretty fast turnaround time, and he did the ski tips in a similar spot almost every year, unless it was sort of terrain related. But we did it on this Rock Isle Road, it was called. And one year, I ended up driving the snowmobile for him.
All right.
So I was shuttling him from the bottom of the slope up to the top of the slope, and I was with him all day. So I got to know him pretty well and stuff. And then a few times the show was at Sunshine, and I was lucky enough to be on the show as just a skier, giving the host the tour and that kind of thing. And then you fast forward, Rob wanted to retire, and they Ski TV, it was called at the time, or Pontiac World of Skiing. It was sponsored by Pontiac. They just put out this national ad for tryouts to replace Rob Butler. So I hit up a guy local here. He's actually at Silver Star, named Klaus Gretschmacher, and he was a videographer, and he helped me do a demo video, and I submitted that video and got the job. Yeah. And that was it. And the first year I split it with a friend of mine, Steve Young.
Yeah.
And so he did 6 tips, and I did 6 tips. And then the following year, they gave the thing to me. Steve hosted a little bit of the show, but they gave me the tips moving forward. So yeah, I shot. And then, part of it, like Big White agreed to the hosting contract. And so we hosted them here at Big White. Steve did his first year at Whistler. I did the ones here at Big White. And then from there on, we moved forward, and we, I think I did, I think it was 10 years of that. Maybe,
wow.
Maybe even 11, 10 or 11 years.
Yeah.
Of that, where we did 12 ski tips a year.
How long did they take to film? Because these days, right, anyone with a camera can upload stuff like this onto YouTube, no problem. But back when you were doing those, it was significantly more difficult.
Yeah, well, I worked with, and still really good friends with, the same videographer, or one of the videographers that Rob Butler finished with. His name's Daryl Palmer. He's a big guy, so his nickname is LG, which just stands for large guy. And he super tall, but super nice guy, really fun, really funny, and he lives in Whistler with his wife and daughter. And he would come out twice a year. We would shoot 6 tips in the spring and 6 tips in the early season. And so the tips that we shot in the spring would be the tips that led the following season with. Yeah. And so and that's why it was. You'd see the snow was different, the light was different, and stuff like that. But he's an incredible cameraman. Like, some of those shots, like where I'm even going fast, he's going backwards, right? Oh, really? And keeping me in frame and making sure, like, probably our biggest challenge was sound. Yeah. Because you're using wireless mics, and we're really particular with the sound quality, because it's got to be good. It's on television, and then it's going onto the internet as well. So you get a pop or a crackle in the wireless mic, and we'd have to shoot it again. Oh wow. But it was pretty rare that he would mess up. Every once in a while, like he might mess up, but pretty darn rare. But like with the tips, like if I was on, and I usually the winter tips, like the early season ones, I did better than the spring tips, because I had all summer to kind of formulate them in my mind, so I had a better script for them, because I wrote all of those, and they're just off the top of my head kind of thing, and so I would have, like, the ideas of the shots laid out a little bit better. But then you get into the winter, and then the next thing you know, LG's here next week, and we're shooting ski tips, and I don't have one, right? Or I haven't written one, so I'm like, oh geez, I got to come up with 6 ski tips. So sometimes the ones in the winter I had a little bit more time to think, and then in the spring, sometimes they were a little bit more rushed. But in terms of how long they took to shoot, I could, if I was on it and I had my A game and the sound worked, and I didn't fumble what I wanted to say, like, we could do a tip in a run. Oh, okay. Yeah, because we break it down into different segments, and we had a little bit of a language going between the two of us of what the shots were. We'd call it a ski to, a ski by, a ski to and stop, a ski to and wrap, and stuff like that. So any of those tips where you see me sitting on the chairlift doing the intro or the wrap or whatever, that was one that we ran out of space, and we did the intro or the wrap afterwards. And then in the tips where you see it cut to, like, my face saying "from beautiful Big White Ski Resort" or whatever, that's because I screwed up that line. Because the just saying, like, "from beautiful Big White Ski Resort, Canada's favorite family resort in the sunny Okanagan," right? My God, you'd have to say that, and then on a cold day or whatever, your lips are frozen and you kind of stumble. So
Yeah.
and then literally any of the ones where you see it with the wrap where it cuts to just my head and shoulders in it is because I screwed up the line. And you'll notice there's quite a few of those.
It's the magic of editing, isn't it? Like that allows you to get away with that. There's plenty of mistakes I make on these podcasts, and most of them, in fact, to be fair, most of them I let go straight through. I think it's a bit more authentic that way. But there are some stuff that has been edited out of a lot of these podcasts previously. Some things that I haven't wanted to say, or some things that the guest didn't want to go out, or whatever. That's fair enough. It's fair game.
Yeah. That was fun though, and they LG would do the rough edits, like you do the rough cut, and then he'd send it to Toronto to Steve Simons, and Steve would clean it up, clean the sound up, put the music on it, and put the graphics on it, and then it was ready to go.
Amazing.
Ready to go for the show. It was that was a lot of fun, and I still do some work with Ski TV, but they're now Ski TV China.
Oh wow!
So I've been doing some stuff with them. We did had a few of my contacts in China on a show, for example, last year, which will air this year for Ski TV China. So cool. So we're still doing some work with the show, and we've got an eye to do some tips, but it'll be mostly just digital. It won't be to TV. Except for and then digital for sure in China as well.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it was a super cool ride. Yeah,
the ski tips memory lives on in my own skiing. You'll be glad to know that every now and then I still remember the elbows down tip, and that's one that I take with me into. So it's living on in the Swiss Alps.
There's lots of people that do that. Like it's funny who recognizes you and why they recognize you. Like I'd be walking through the airport, especially like in Toronto and places like that. If you go to the Toronto Ski Show, and people because that was sort of the biggest market for the show.
Yeah.
And people recognize you. It's kind of fun. It's a bit flattering as well that they recognize you. But the weirdest thing is my voice. I think people recognize my voice. Like I'd be standing in the lift line in Whistler teaching a CSIA course.
Yeah.
And people would come over and say, "Hey, are you that Josh guy?" And I'm like, yeah.
Because
I recognized your voice. Right?
It would be more voice, right? Because obviously, in a lot of those videos, it looks like it's so flippant cold that you wouldn't have your goggles up anyway.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't be able to recognize your face.
Yeah, my staff here at Big White, they made me a name tag once there when they swapped it out on my uniform jacket, and I didn't notice, so I wore the thing for about a week. And all the name tags at Big White, they say your name and where you're from.
Yeah.
And this name tag they put on there said Ernie from Sesame Street. So sort of sounds like my voice. I sound like Ernie from Sesame Street.
Oh yeah, okay, I hear that a little bit.
Yeah, I skied around for a week with that name tag on. I didn't even notice.
Well, at least you keep it. Most of my ski instructors seem to be extremely good at losing theirs. And, or are just rebels and don't want to wear it. I'm the only guy that really managed to look after his, but I think they get through a lot more picking up people than I do, so that's fair enough. I hope you're enjoying this chat with Josh as much as I enjoyed having it and making this podcast. He's a really, really lovely guy and so laid back, and I think that really, really shows through in the interview. I wanted to tell you a little bit about something that's coming up. So the next podcast is already being recorded and actually just need some editing before it will come out. next month, and it'll be with Lynn Mill from the British Association of Ski Instructors. Lynn works out of Val d'Isère and is on the British Association National Education team, demo team, and we had a really, really good chat about that, and also is my first female guest. It's been difficult to track down females to interview, but yeah, and I know a few of you have written to me about this, but yeah, so finally after 23 episodes, 24 is going to be with Lynn, and that one's a really cool interview as well. So that's the next one that's coming up. In the second half of this interview, we talk more about the CSIA. I wanted to particularly talk to Josh about East versus West and French versus English. And we had that chat, and a couple of very interesting things came out of it. We also talked a bit more about Interski, and there's some other chat also. I wanted to specifically ask about how the sort of the ice hockey culture in Canada translates over into skiing in terms of technique. So there's some interesting chat about that as well. So enjoy the second half, and I'll catch you on the next one, episode 24 with Lynn. So see you later.
Sure.
You mentioned the CSIA, so let's segue into that. You still run training courses, obviously.
Yep.
You're a trainer with them, and you've made the Interski team, I guess, a number of times. How was that particular journey? Is there a selection for the Interski team, or and for the trainer positions, I guess, in the same way that there is for the British?
Yeah, well, when you're teaching courses, you work as a contractor. And when I was at Big White, it's difficult to take time off and time away, as you would know as a ski school director. It's difficult to sort of take that time out. So I did a lot of courses here at Big White where you just end up working a really long day kind of thing, where you get to the office super early, then you're on snow for a course, and then you're in the office super late. But I've worked the level 4 course. I've lost count now. I think there's a couple of guys that probably did more than me, but they're no longer as active. So I think I'm the senior guy now when it comes to the level 4 course. I think I've done probably 20 to 25 level 4 courses and exams. Then because there was a few years there where we did a couple of courses a year, but it's usually the level 4 courses only ends up being once in the east, once in the west. Although that format looks to be evolving as the organization grows and evolves. So I've been really lucky to be able to do that. Where teaching courses, I sometimes tell people that I think sometimes I love teaching skiing more than I love skiing itself. Because
join the club.
Because you get to do both, right? And watching somebody improve and watching them have a positive result, that's a really rewarding feeling. And I get to do that when I teach courses for the CSIA, and then also being able to kind of help that next generation of instructors and help them tap into their passion for skiing and their passion for teaching skiing. That's incredibly rewarding too, to mentor those people along and try to help turn out the best ski instructors that you possibly can, because that the ripple effect of that or the end user of that is going to be the skiing public. So it's a great opportunity to kind of contribute in a really, really rewarding way to the skiing in this country, right? So in terms of the process and stuff like that, well, you kind of work your way through the course conducting levels, much like the certification levels themselves, right? Where you the way our process works is you kind of you teach at one level for a while, and then you can apply to teach at the next level. Then you go through a little bit of mentoring. There's a little bit of an assessment, what we call a rookie process, where you've got to shadow alongside a more senior course conductor, and then you do some teaching on that, and then they basically sign you off, right? So much like you earned the 1 through 4 certification, you also go through a process to earn your 1 through 4 course conductor status as well. And I've been at it for 30 years, right? So when I think of those 30 years, 25 of them at least, I've been probably 26, 27 years I've been a course conductor from level 1 through 4.
Okay.
And it's good. Like, it's an opportunity, like I said, to help somebody along in their teaching and in their skiing. And I think in the big picture, skiing with the general public certainly has its fun and its enjoyment for sure. But I think from a giving back type of scenario, being able to do that with newer instructors or help somebody achieve the level that they're striving for, it's probably even a little bit more rewarding. I really enjoy it.
I've heard some really, really interesting things, interesting positive things about the CSIA. I don't profess to know very much about the system, how it works, and what the sort of the minutiae of what you guys talk about when you're on instructor courses. But I have heard some really, really cool stuff about the sort of the feeling within the organization, and what I would call maybe like the fraternity or the community. And so at the moment I'm working on one of Basie's sort of working groups. So Basie's going through quite a big change at the moment internally. You may or may not have heard about, but they've sent some working groups out to I don't know, really come back to the organization with some different ideas and about how we can reconnect necessarily with the membership. And I'm sort of qualified also through Swiss Snowsports. It's just my main thing rather than Basie. But the British guys probably, or certainly in our working group, are taking a lot of the good stuff from necessarily the Swiss and the Canadians in terms of how it feels to be a member of the CSIA, and how what that experience is like. And I think the feeling is in the British that they've gone a bit too corporate in recent years, and it should feel a little bit more like it feels when you turn up for a Swiss Snowsports exam or a Canadian exam, where it's sort of everyone's kind of willing you on, and it should feel friendly rather than it being an exercise in judgment necessarily. And that's sure. It's really interesting to hear that, and I think it's something that other nations are certainly aspiring to, for sure.
Yeah, well, one of our sort of key objectives when we're working on these courses is our formatting has evolved, and it's still evolving and changing a little bit in terms of course structure and that kind of thing, and the format in which we evaluate our standards and that. And there's definitely a standard for every level, and there is moving forward. The level 1 will remain as is. Level 2 changes a little bit. Level 3 is pretty similar. It'll remain kind of as is, and level 4 is something that we're working on as well. I'm really lucky. Like over the years, I've volunteered a lot of my time to participate with the CSIA in terms of course development and things like that. I've been on several committees, the education committee, for example, where we help develop the course content itself. I've been involved on the sort of I guess you could call it the political side of the CSIA, where I've been the chair of the BC Regional Committee. And currently I'm the chair of what we call the Technical Committee. So the TC, as we call it for short, the TC, we help develop and discuss the way that our organization views and describes ski technique.
Okay.
So how do we describe the movements associated with what we believe our ski technique to be? You know, what is our technique based on? You know, and from this recent Interski in Bulgaria, you know, it's really fun because I went to Interski in 2007 in Korea, and then was up for the next one, but broke my ankle.
Oh.
And you know, couldn't go really. Well, I went to the last tryout, but I was on one foot. And yeah, you need both feet to make the Canadian Interski team.
That's good advice for anyone who's trying to make it. You definitely need 2 feet.
Both feet, yeah. So unfortunately, I didn't end up going to St. Anton in 2011, and then you know, just the Ushuaia. The philosophy was a little bit different, and you know, they wanted to go with some park people and stuff like that. And then, lo and behold, I'm back in the mix for 2018 in Bulgaria. So, or 19, sorry, in Bulgaria. So yeah, it was pretty cool to be able to participate in that, and it was interesting too to see like what we learned in 2007, and then have that 12-year spread, and then to see where other countries have come to.
Yeah.
And other organizations, you know, like they're the bigger organizations like Béziers, Swiss Snowsports, the Austrians, the French, you know, although those guys weren't there, or the French weren't, and the Italians weren't there in Bulgaria, but the Austrians sure were. And to see like the bigger skiing nations sort of growing and evolving in their approach, but then also seeing some of the smaller skiing nations getting on board. So I think it was really interesting in Bulgaria that there was more similarities coming out, because you know, a lot of countries' approaches in 2007, you could say that they were based on skiing style.
Yeah.
Whereas in Bulgaria, they were based in science. Yes. Right. So you know, and when we all base our technique and our approach on physics and science, and you know, physics and biomechanics, then you can't help but end up starting to talk about the same things, right? Because science is science, right?
It's true, right? It looked like that to me. You look at the old ones, and there are, you know, there's plenty of video around, and credit to you and your colleagues at the CSIA. One of my favourite ones is I think it's the one from 2011. You've got
comparison.
Yeah, that's one of my favourite videos of all time. What a nerd I am, but I've watched that a lot, and there's one particular one where I can't remember who he is, the Swiss demonstrator, and he's kind of coming over a roller, and he ends up landing on one foot on the inside foot, and I'm just like, wow, that looks just so good. But luckily within those ones, because it was good that you captured those ones, that they've still got, you know, you've got French demonstrators in that one, which we haven't seen now for a while, and I love the way the French guys ski. You know, they're really fluid.
It's beautiful,
It is nice. I love it too. And it's a shame that the French and the Italians aren't there anymore. It's a real shame. Because it would be nice to see. It'd be nice if everyone could just get on and you know, go there for skiing's sake rather than politics' sake. But that's probably a story for a different time. But you're right. The thing that struck me about this year is that a lot of countries are now. There's a sort, and Jazz talked about this in one. Jazz Lamb from the UK talked about this in one of the early podcasts that we did of this series. And he said there's been a lot of convergence, you know, like a lot of ski nations are skiing the same. There is some stylistic differences, I think, with the guys from maybe Japan, Korea, New Zealand, Australia. I saw some of that. Yeah, that sort of what would you call it? Asian Pacific Rim kind of skiing. They keep very, very low, but in transition. But otherwise, everyone kind of it was pretty similar. There was a lot of similarity. That's for sure.
Yeah, and a lot of similarities too now in the teaching approach. You know, where I remember a real fun session I went to in Korea by the Hungarians, and they had their approach was almost kind of based in marketing.
Yeah.
Where they had like the section, they called it the Heart of a Lion. Then there was another one, the Eye of an Eagle, and then another one. It was when Shakira was popular. It was called the Hips Don't Lie.
Yeah.
And it was, and they don't have any skiing in Hungary, right? So they're taking people to Italy.
Okay.
And their approach was one where they're trying to engage the customer, right? But it wasn't based in any kind of, modern learning principle or anything like that. It was just based in having some fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. And now you see everybody at this last Interski, they're talking about different learning styles and, more holistic teaching. And, we've been, in our country, we've been working with more of a reflective learning style where you sort of experiential education, where you're sort of working in these cyclical fashions. And it was really cool to see, like, the Americans were on side with that. The Germans were coming on side to that as well. And definitely the Aussies were on side to that too. So, even what people and organizations perceive to be the best way that people can learn on snow is something that's becoming a little bit more unified in its approach too, right? So,
I agree.
It was a really fun event as well. Yeah.
They've been pushing quite hard in the Swiss Snowsports magazine that comes through quite regularly to me. They push quite hard this concept of their My Magic Moments concept. Yeah. Which is, also about, trying to create that one moment in a session where it's kind of everything's great and beautiful and something, that I guess what they're looking for is that kind of that aha or that sort of light bulb or that click moment where like people are really buying into skiing. And so that would sort of tie in with that approach that you were talking about as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, cool. Now tell me, if since we're on the subject of Canada.
Yeah.
I've just driven from one side of Switzerland to the other. I'm just up in the north trying to buy a dog, funnily enough. And
Bernese Mountain Dog?
No, I couldn't bring myself to do it. They don't live very long and they're a bit dopey.
I've had two of them, and you're right. Yeah.
So I lost my listen, this is a long and emotional story, but I lost my border collie about 2 years ago. And he was with me for 13 years, and I decided finally that I'm ready to replace him. So we went all the way to the Jura in the north of Switzerland and picked out a dog today. So hopefully that's going to be really cool, and he'll be with us in about a month, which is terrific. And it's funny actually to see like these 5 little guys just sort of fighting each other and rolling around in the garden. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's that, and so that's coming, and on the way back. I drove back, this is a long and convoluted story to say that on the way back we drove through a French-speaking area, German-speaking area, back to a French-speaking area, and then back home. Now, in Canada you have that also, I'm guessing, within different ski areas, because the ones in the east you were talking about, Mont Saint-Anne and Mont Tremblant, they're French, right, or French-speaking, I'm guessing, and then out west everyone speaks English. How does that all get managed within the organisation? And the follow-up question to that is, because the CSIA must have this same issue, is that in different regions you ski on different snow types.
Right.
So if it's in the east, I'm guessing in Mont Saint-Anne and Tremblant they're used to skiing bulletproof ice. I'm only guessing. And out west you're skiing powder all the time. So how does that get managed within CSIA?
Yeah. Well, it'd be nice if it was powder all the time.
Wow.
It's not quite powder all the time.
Within reason.
But when we produce materials, for example, like with the TC, like we have timelines to produce materials because it needs to go to translation, right, before it gets released to the membership at large, right? Okay. So everything that we do in our organization is totally bilingual. So French and English. The head office for the organization has always been based in Quebec, in the Montreal area. It's moved around to a couple of locations, but it's based in Quebec. The organization was founded in Quebec. Okay. By a gentleman named Ernie McCullough, based out of Tremblant, and the Tremblant Ski Club is sort of the beginnings in 1938 of the Canadian Ski Instructors Alliance.
Okay.
So it's kind of well rooted in Eastern Canada, and then kind of progressed west from there. So, in terms of content and that kind of thing, it's, a lot of it is depending on who makes up the current committees. Like, all of our conversation for the most part, like with technical committees, education committees and stuff, although we might go to a meeting in Montreal, the bulk of it will be done in English. Although if required, if the French Canadian participants require a translator, there'll be a translator that would participate in those meetings, because we do have some of our membership that prefer to participate in their native tongue, which is, if it's French, then so be it. We make those. I wouldn't even call it a concession, because it's not a concession. It's
just
accepted,
how it is,
right?
Yeah.
It's just how it is, right? So that's no problem. So in that regard, in terms of the communication and messaging, it's in both, and it's equally balanced in French and English. For example, if you phone the national office and you get somebody's voicemail, everybody's voicemail will be in French and English. And it's just the two languages. It's just accepted that that's the way that it is.
Now how does that work in the sorry, I'm jumping out before you finish the question, but how does that work within the training body? Does everyone have to speak both languages, or do you only run courses in English if you only speak English? Because you speak both, I guess.
You sign up in courses, more so in Quebec. In the West, pretty much everything is done in English. Virtually everything is done in English. But the courses, you have the option to sign up for a French course or an English course.
Okay.
Example, I went to Quebec to teach the level 4 course a few years ago, and I understand enough French to get by in Quebec. I'm embarrassingly bad at my French. It's school French that most Canadian kids, when I grew up anyways, we had French classes all through school. So when I was in high school, I would have considered myself bilingual, but it's like one of those things, if you don't use it, you lose it kind of deal. So and I had French roommates when I had my first few years teaching skiing at Sunshine. I understand more French than I'm confident enough to speak. So you can get by in a room where that's happening, but the courses are run French and English. Like I said, for the level 4, for example, because there was one Western course and one Eastern course. You would sign up if you were in the East, like the candidates from Ontario would generally want to be in an English cell. And then the candidates from Quebec would be in a French cell.
Okay.
There was a couple of times a little bit of crossover, but for the most part, the numbers are such that you can have a couple of English groups and you have a couple of French groups, and that sort of thing, and then you're evaluated in your native tongue, and that's just the accepted way to go about it. In Quebec, it's more of a thing where they'll have an English course or a French course, and the French courses definitely outnumber the English courses, but there's the opportunity there. So from a language sort of context, it's not really an issue. It's just a thing. It's just the way that we operate. In terms of the content though, and the skiing, you notice, like, when we come together for Interski, you usually have five members from the East, 5 members from the West. You have a woman from the East, a woman from the West. Of those 10, so there's normally 10 participants. Has been sort of the number for the last several Interskis. That's been the balance. Although Ushuaia, for example, there's 3 women on the team, and that's just the way that the tryout shook down. Our organization is definitely kind of in terms of the membership, it's not quite 50-50 men and women, but at the higher levels, maybe women are smarter and they don't pursue ski instructing as long.
Yeah.
I don't know, but there tends to be more men at that higher level. So the team is definitely weighted towards men, but
yeah, I'm having that conversation in another podcast I'm recording next week with someone from the British Interski team, and I think we're gonna. It's a difficult chat to have because you don't want to trip yourself up with what I need to give it some thought before I have that conversation. But participation numbers of women in snow sports and how many get through the higher level, and should it be adjusted for quality of entry or quality of outcome? You don't really want to go down that road. Blah blah blah. It's a minefield, and I really need to give that one some thought before I get there. And have that chat, but it's tricky.
For us, the team makeup though is it seems to work out to be as a percentage of participation, right? So so there's 2 women out of 10 on the team, and it kind of makes sense because of the number of participants trying out to make the team. Women make up maybe 20%. 10 to 20% of the applicants. So it to me maybe trip myself up, but to me that seems to be balanced then. Whereas if it was 50-50, if it was half women, half men trying out, well then the team should reflect that. I believe, right? And so I think, in my opinion, and it's an opinion and it's my own, I don't speak for anybody else in that regard, but to me, there's balance there. But what you do notice is the preference for turn shape, and ski choice and things like that. Like the Eastern team members, they all want to be on an RD slalom, like a race department slalom ski That's what they spend most of their time on.
Because that makes sense, right? If it's icy all the time over there.
Yeah, and so, but here in the West, we want to be on a much larger ski, right? So what we ended up doing is this last Interski, we had a bit of a compromise, right? Because we ended up choosing an 18-meter ski is what we ended up skiing on.
Okay.
And everybody with their sponsorships and stuff like that, you approach your manufacturer, and most manufacturers now, like Head makes there's the iSpeed Pro and the iSpeed, which are, and that's the ski that I ski on. And I ski on that out here a fair bit, but because it's a narrower ski and we're skiing in a softer snow environment, it's not my everyday ski. My everyday ski is 88 under the foot. It's a Monster 88.
I've heard good reviews about that ski, to be fair. That's supposed to be an amazing ski.
It's wonderful, and unfortunately Head's doing away with that ski. Last year was the last year of the Monster.
Really? People were raving about that last year, the new Monster.
Yeah, we need to create a movement for them to keep producing that ski, because it's been one of my favorites for a decade. So it's
unfortunately
it's awesome.
for you, I won't be joining that. There'll be a cheeky little advert at the start of this for Castley, who are just picking up for skis. So
who makes some wonderful skis too. Right?
Absolutely,
so, yeah, that's good. But like in that vein, like that it was easy for the guys on Rosignol to get the Hero 18, which is basically their Masters race ski. Yes. One of the guys is on Blizzard, so one guy was on Nordica, and they're pretty similar skis, so they were able to get the Firebird or the Doberman, and everybody's on the similar 18-meter ski. But the Eastern guys for sure, and men and women, all of them prefer the slalom ski. So that in and of itself kind of does kind of trickle into our course content, to come back to your original question of things east and things west, and what we do in our courses is the course material is the same, east to west, and the delivery of that material and that message is the same. And one of the things that we do identify in what we call our decision-making process. And that's a structure that we use in terms of teaching, is that we just call it our decision-making process. And one of the components that we factor into that, or you have to factor into that, is the way that we term it is the situation.
Yeah.
Right. So the situation is snow conditions. The situation is weather. The situation is traffic, even on the mountain. The situation is the terrain, all of that kind of stuff. So when we have an approach that identifies that as a significant aspect in the choices that you make within a lesson, then it really doesn't matter if it's east or west, because if you're identifying the situation appropriately, then you're going to change your approach based on what's required, right? So that allows us to have a unified message east to west.
Yeah.
Where, we're not changing the way that we teach at, Whistler as compared to Marble Mountain.
Yeah,
right? Whistler being the far west coast, Marble Mountain being probably the last ski area in the east coast in Newfoundland, right? So, it's the same lesson structure, it's the same content, but because we've opened it in a way that a good ski pro is going to identify things like we talked about earlier, like the cold in Lake Louise. Well, that's your situation, so you've got to adjust to that, right? Or the rain that you can sometimes get in the east. Well, that's your situation. How do you adjust to that, right? So it kind of allows us to be unified, if you will, east to west, for sure. And because of that, our organization, we're confident that we're delivering a quality training product to ski pros to create great ski pros that basically allow us to support our biggest partner, and our organization's biggest partner is the ski schools, right? Is the ski schools across the country, and we want to turn out the best ski pro that we possibly can for them.
Okay. There's a last little quick tangent on that subject, but on the mountains in Canada, is it the same as in the US? So it's the corporation that owns the mountain, and then you work for the ski school at that mountain, or is there scope for independence to work in Canadian mountains as well?
No, it's pretty much all owned by the corporation, the ski resort itself. Like I'm fortunate enough in my other business with Snowsports Unlimited that I do have some agreements with places, but there's nowhere that I'm aware of that has like a separate ski school. Like you don't have a choice of if you go to Whistler, there's different programs within the umbrella of the ski school at Whistler where they do work with some partners. Like they work with companies like Yes Improvement. They work with All Tracks Academy is one of their instructor training programs. They work with another organization, good friend of mine and his wife run, called Extremely Canadian, which is like their off-piste program, like their big mountain skiing program and snowboarding program. But they all fall under the umbrella of the ski school. Like there's maybe a couple of small privately owned ski schools now left in the country. Like the last big one was at Panorama, and that was Heather and Don Bilodeau that used to own that, and that was probably the last large concession style ski school in Canada, and they were the only ski school there. And that's the way that most ski resorts in Canada operate. There's one ski school. There's not and some of within that ski school, they're with those different programs, they might wear a different uniform and stuff like that, so it has a look of a different ski school, but it's not. It's
just like a sub-brand.
Yeah, it's just a program within it, right? Yeah.
Okay. Look, we've blown past the time that I said that I'd do. I have two little things that I'd love to ask you about if you've got time. One is Snowsports Unlimited. Sure. You've got to tell us about that, because that's your new baby. But the first one, it goes with a little bit of a story. So I was, for a couple of years ago, I had a skier come out, learn to ski with a school group. Saw him 2 or 3 years in a row, who used to play ice hockey for Great Britain. So we're going back to ice hockey a little bit.
Yeah.
He seemed to pick up skiing super easy. Yeah. And had no issue with falling down, obviously, because you get smashed all over the place, I guess, in ice hockey. Because so many kids skate, I guess, in Canada, do you get a lot of crossover from one to the other? I mean, presumably your experience was you jumped onto skis. They seem pretty easy because you've got loads of fore aft, loads of space to keep you up compared to hockey. Yeah. But I guess it's quite two-footed compared to skiing. Would that be would they be fair things to say, all of those?
Really, really similar movements, absolutely. And my a former girlfriend that I went out with, the one that I mentioned with in Vail, she was quite a good hockey player, and and women's hockey is massive in Canada as well as men's hockey, and I taught her how to ski from scratch to the chairlift. It probably took 10 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I just told her, I said, hey, go straight and then kind of stop like you're stopping on your skates. And she went down and did a hockey stop to one side. And then now do it the other side. And she did that. And I said, okay, now put two together and don't quite come to a complete stop.
Yeah.
And she did that. And I go, beauty, parallel turn, let's head to the lift. And then that was it, right? So people that have that comfort and background, for sure, they can progress quite rapidly. That said, though, in our country here, we're experiencing a fairly different phenomenon, like you see in a lot of ski schools, or what's termed as a new Canadian here, where there's a lot of immigration in our country. Where when you look at when I first started, what looked to be the regular participant in a lesson, Canadians are notoriously a little bit hard-headed. So we'll go out and beat ourselves up and try to figure it out, right? Or you go out with your buddy, and that's literally like my first skiing experience was exactly the way that I just described it with my former girlfriend. I went with a school group my very first time, and typical kid in school, I wasn't listening. And the instructors wanted to split the kids up. So we went to the top of this little T-bar, and I got on it with my best buddy, who I'm still good friends with, and his family sort of supported my skiing at the beginning, because nobody in my family skied. And so we got to the T-bar, and he says, okay, this isn't a seat, just make sure you stand up. And so it's funny that like that's kind of the way that you would do that, right? You wouldn't say don't sit down. You teach the positive, and inevitably I tried to sit down, and he says no, stand up. So we went up to the top of this run, and we get to the top, and the ski instructor says, okay, what you're going to do is you're going to ski down this slope, and one of the instructors that's waving to you at the bottom, you're going to join their group, and you're in their group. And so I sort of pseudo skate over there, because I played a lot of hockey, and I said, okay, so how do you ski? And the instructor looked at me like, yeah, nice one, kid. And here's the joker in the group. And then I say, like, no, seriously, I've never skied before. And he goes, well, what are you doing up here? You're supposed to be down there with those kids. And he points to this group of kids walking around in their boots and stuff like that, right? And he goes, okay, well, just wait to the end, and I'll get you down. And I'm like, I sort of saunter back over to my buddies there, and I said, well, there's no way I'm waiting to the end to be helped down by this instructor, because one of the reasons why I joined the ski club was for a girl anyways, so there's no way I was going to be embarrassed by that. And so I asked my buddy Justin, the guy that helped me up the T-bar, I said, so how do you ski? And he goes, well, it's just like same thing, just like stopping on your skates, but you don't quite come to a complete stop. And I'm like, okay. so the instructor's okay, a couple kids go, and I watch, and then he goes, okay, next, and I push out, and he's yelling, wait, stop. And then down I go, got up a little bit of speed, and really sloppy kind of hockey skiddy stop type stuff, and I ended up in the second highest group, and that was my first run. And then that was luck, because the rest of that lesson I was all over the shop, but it was yeah, it was pretty funny. So yeah, but the skating certainly does contribute to it. But like I said, in this country now, we're experiencing a lot of new Canadians, and so that skate before you can walk type of culture that Canada was when I grew up is a little bit different, because hockey is a bit of a foreign sport to a lot of new Canadians and that sort of thing. So you don't see that quite as much, but it's still a thing within our kids' lessons and stuff like that. Hockey too it's an expensive sport to play. The equipment's expensive, the ice time's expensive. So there's a lot more kids now that are looking to other sports. Like anywhere else in the world, like as you call it there, football, soccer here. Yeah, it's a massively popular sport because all you need is a ball and some shoes, right?
Yeah. Barrier to entry is low, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay. Tell me then. Let's finish off on Snowsports Unlimited. What? Tell me more about that. What is that all about?
Yeah, well, that's my company. I started that. I guess we're going on to year 2 of Snowsports Unlimited, and then the name in and of itself sort of describes a little bit of my philosophy, is the unlimited part. And one of the things that we try to do is create experiences and remove the limits that are holding people back. And so from a philosophical standpoint, that's how we operate. Like working in the confines of the ski resort type of management structure and things like that, you're not really able to do certain things, right? That you want to do. So no longer having those things to once again limit me. My plan was to move past that. So what we've been doing is a lot of instructor training. So I've got sort of regular weekend programs that I run out of a small ski area called Apex, which is near Penticton. Okay. It's a little, it's about an hour and a half from here. And I chose Apex because the terrain is off the hook. Like it's steep and gnarly and big bumps and stuff like that. So it's once again helping people move past those things that are limiting them and moving past their fears and trying to help them be more comfortable through developing their skiing skills. And then we also focus on some instructor training as well, and we help people get to that next level in terms of their certification. So those things where you don't really have the time to do, for example, on a regular CSIA course, is really spending the one-on-one time with people to understand the way that they think about skiing and the way that they teach skiing, and really getting to the heart of them, really, and what's holding them back personally from their, whether it be understanding or a lack thereof of ski technique. And we can spend that one-on-one time. So I limit my programs to very small groups, and which something, as you would know, as a ski school director, is really difficult to do, right? Because you want to keep those groups full, right? Because that's what generates the margin that you're looking for. So I don't have that concern. So I'm able to work in one-on-one settings and really small 1-on-2, 1-on-3, maybe max 1-on-4 kind of settings to help these people get to whatever goal they're trying to achieve, or remove those limits that are holding them back. So we do that in a training context. We also are looking to some destination programming. I work with another friend of mine where we do some trips to Chile every August. I don't know that we're going this year.
That might be
which is so unfortunate because it's snowing like crazy there right now. And last year was a bit of a lean year for snow down there, unfortunately. But we go and do that trip, and it's super fun. I've got a trip planned to Austria, to Schruns, Austria in February, and a good friend of mine that owns and operates SoFa Ski School.
Oh yeah,
Klaus Meyer.
Yes.
yeah, he's helped me out to put together a trip there. So hopefully the international travel bans lift, and people are healthy and safe, and we can make that trip happen. And we'll go there and bring once again a small group of people, kind of an exclusive type group, and yeah, just the highest level training that we can possibly deliver is what the objective is there. And
great.
Probably the major part of what we have been up to, though, in these last couple of years is developing instructor training programs out of China. So I mentioned earlier sort of the connection with Ski TV still happening, and we're working with Ski TV in China. And we've been I've got some business associates over there where we've been delivering level 1 and 2 Canadian Ski Instructors Alliance certification courses. So we've gone over there, and we've got some agreements in place with some of the indoor ski facilities where we're working with. There's a company called Sunac that has some of the bigger resorts like in Guangzhou and Chendong and places like that. The new one in Shanghai opening up as well. So we're indoors there and training and certifying instructors to basically help support and feed what is the fastest growing ski market currently in the world. And then on top of that, we're outdoors at a place called Lake Songkhla and another one called Beidahu, which is in Jilin province in China, where we're on snow doing instructor training programs there. And then that sort of led us into some ski school consulting work as well. So we've worked with a couple of the ski schools there to help develop a few things with their day-to-day operations and business, from everything as straightforward as human resource management, staffing, and staff training, and making sure that they're delivering a good product out on snow, to helping develop their product offering and looking at what they're selling and if that's meeting what their customers' needs are, and trying to understand their customer base and help them understand their customer base so that they can run as efficiently and effectively as possible and as profitably as possible. It's a strange environment over there. They don't really subscribe to the group lesson type of format. It's predominantly private and that sort of thing. So we've been steering them a little bit in ways to help support that, but then also to look at programming that maybe does some family group products and that sort of thing, because socially, or culturally, it's a very social environment that they live within. Like dinners tend to be big outings and stuff like that. So socially, they interact like crazy. But when it comes to the ski school lesson product, it's a private. That's it. They don't really do much of anything else. So it's kind of interesting, and working with the ski schools to help them look at their numbers and different ways to create programming that's going to appeal to their market base. So it's once again, it comes back to what I led with, is the unlimited is kind of the key thing. Is that it's pretty broad in terms of what we do, and it's just taking advantage of those opportunities that weren't really accessible when I was limited by working with one ski resort. So that's why the name of it. And it's been a fun ride, and it's the working in the fire department gives me a lot of free time, and that was one of the choices too, with my shift schedule with the fire department is kind of a 4 on 4 off type of idea, and then I can bank some time and I get lots of vacation time. So being able to be on snow, I probably skied more in the last couple of years here than I ever did as a ski school director, which has been so much fun. And then this experience of training new instructors and then helping people achieve their goals or surpass their goals, it's been incredibly rewarding.
No, it's really good, isn't it? Like, it's nice. It sounds like it also keeps it interesting from your perspective. I mean, when I set the ski school up here, I deliberately didn't want to be tied to one particular resort, and as a result, I'm all over the place all the time, and I really like it that way. Like you'll know as well as anyone, if you just ski the same old runs in the same old resort year in, year out, it gets pretty dull after a while.
does, yeah.
And so you move around a bit, and it, like I say, it keeps it really fresh. So that's great. Oh, fair play to you. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's been awesome. It's just it was one of those ideas I had sort of turning around in the back of my head for years, but it's just kind of like, well, how do you do that? Well, you got to take a jump, right?
You do, right, and you've got to kind of work out how it all works, and that's eventually why you get paid on it, because you've taken the time and the effort to work out all of that detail in the background. That's where the value is, to put all that together. It's oh, that's fantastic. Good for you. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, the last thing that we'll be doing this year is back to producing ski tips and things like that. So the relationship with Ski TV China is such that they're going to essentially purchase now the tips from me.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And then they'll translate them and all that kind of stuff for their market. So I'll be, before I produce the tips in terms of the content itself, but I left the editing and all of that stuff to other people, right? But now we'll got a good friend. He's actually coming over for dinner tonight. We're going to go through some of the footage I have, and we'll start to make some edits so that we've got a bunch of tips to launch for the beginning of the season, and then so those will be my property now and not just property of Ski TV. So
brilliant.
So stay tuned. To the interwebs for these things coming at you.
I can pick up some new ones because other than just the elbows down one. Terrific.
Yeah.
All right. So look, where can people find you if they need to find you? What's the best way to get in touch with Josh Foster?
Well, I'm just working with some web developers as well on a new website. So snowsportsunlimited.com.
Okay.
Is the current web address. So the old site's still up and running, and there's some contact forms there that you can get to me. The new site should be launched actually by, I was hoping mid-month this month here. It should be up and live and ready to go with some new content, some new training dates and course dates, mostly for the people here in this country in Canada.
Yeah.
And then also, like, we've got those global camps, knock on wood, that our global situation changes here for the better in the near future. But yeah, and then it's just that content. So social media, I'm just Snowsports Unlimited on Instagram, and Snowsports Unlimited with Josh Foster on Facebook. Okay. And we appreciate the follow and the likes, and stay tuned for some new content.
Fantastic. Well, I'll drop links to all of those in the podcast notes to make sure that everybody has got those.
Great.
Cool.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate you getting in touch, Dave. It was fun to finally have a longer chat with you than just an email exchange back and forth.
Yeah, exactly. And I really, really appreciate your time. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat.
My pleasure.
Okay.
Outstanding.